Now, it's not me personally, but some out there are concerned about Drake Maye's development under new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey now that Phil Longo is gone to Wisconsin. I wanted to take a look at it, so let's talk about it after the stinger. It's Felix Sharp at Sharp Review on Twitter for CampusToCanton.com. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button right now and subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't heard about Campus to Canton Fantasy Football Leagues, you need to. I'll put a link in the description box to give you all the information that you need to know. Basically, you get an all college side, college fan. You can a college team, and you can roster Drake Maye or Nate McCullum or Devontae Walker or Bryson Nesbitt, any of your favorite UNC Tar Heels. And then when they declare for the NFL draft, you have them on your NFL team. So, as I mentioned, I think that we felt a little bit comfortable with Drake Maye's development with Phil Longo there. We know that Phil Longo likes to use the slot. We know that his offenses are prolific. We've seen it with Drake Maye. We saw it at Ole Miss. We saw it with Sam Howell in his last year there. But Chip Lindsey, what does he represent? And should there be concern? Like, what should the feelings be? Neutral, positive, negative? So I went back to 2014 to see how his offenses have fared in their respective conference to, kind of come to a conclusion. Now, before we get into that, you need to realize that Chip Lindsey is really a chip off the Gus Malzahn block. He was his offensive coordinator in 2017 and 2018 at Auburn, and then again at UFC in 2022. There's even some question as to whether or not Chip Lindsey was actually calling the plays, or was it Gus Malzahn that was actually doing it, and Chip Lindsey more or less served as an offensive coordinator. So I'm going to read these statistics, and again, this is just for their conference, his history, Chip Lindsey's history since 2014, actually. 2014, he was the offensive coordinator at Southern Miss. He was actually offensive coordinator for Southern Miss in 2014 and 2015. In that first year in 2014, Nick Mullins was a quarterback. Nick Mullins was there, Ito Smith, Jalen Richard, three guys who all went to the NFL. Just in the Conference USA, they were the bottom half of offense in total. Let me back up. In 2014, Southern Miss was in the bottom half of Conference USA in total offense, fourth in passing yards per game, and dead last in rushing yards per game. Todd Monken, head coach Todd Monken, of course, now offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. In 2015, still as the offensive coordinator at Southern Miss, they were second in Conference USA in yards per game with 509, first in rushing yards per game, and second in passing yards per game. Again, that 2015 season, Ito Smith, Jalen Richard, if you play fantasy football, you recognize those names. Both had 1,000 yards for that Southern Miss team. 2016, he goes to become Todd Graham's offensive coordinator at Arizona State. He only spent 1 year there. Kalen Balazs was there. N'Keal Harry was there. They were ninth in the Pac-12 in total offense, sixth in passing yards per game, and third to last in rushing yards per game. 2017, 2018, that's where he connects with Gus Malzahn. That first year in 2017, they were third in yards per game, fifth in passing yards per game, and fourth in rushing yards per game. Jared Stidham, Kerryon Johnson, Darius Slayton, Giants wide receiver, still there in 2017. 2018, 11th in the SEC in total offense. That's not good. Ninth in the SEC in passing yards per game, and 10th in rushing yards per game. Again, a Gus Malzahn offense. That was before Gus Malzahn made the exit from Auburn. 2019, he becomes the head coach at Troy. So, and he was calling the plays here. So this is more recently. It gives us a flavor for what it is that he does. 2019, third in total yards per game in the conference, first in passing yards per game, and third to last in rushing yards per game. So kind of like going back to that first year as offensive coordinator at Southern Miss. 2020, again, as the head coach at Troy, sixth in total yards per game, second in passing yards per game, and second to last in rushing yards per game. Now, regardless of how they did offensively, Troy fans were not pleased with Chip Lindsey as the head coach, given their record over his span his 3 years, 2019 to 2021. Never made a bowl game in his time at Troy. His last year, 2021, second to last in total yards per game, fifth in passing yards per game, and second to last in rushing yards per game. So not particularly, not a reason to be enthusiastic. And then last year at UCF, he connects again with Gus Malzahn, second in total yards per game, eighth in the conference in passing yards per game, and second in rushing yards per game. So, it's a mixed bag there. I think with Phil Longo, we had a more documented history of what he did offensively. Having success with the wide receivers there at UNC, having success with Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. I mean, we've kind of seen them perform big plays, et cetera, et cetera. There is an article on Tar Heel blog from Akil Garuparan. I hope, Akil, that I pronounced your name correctly. He kind of goes through and documents what we can expect from Chip Lindsey's offense. Now, I'm not going to go through everything because he does a great job. I'll just summarize here. Not just the offensive line, but running backs and tight ends are often held in to block. Often, not even just chipping, just straight up blocking. So I think that Bryson Nesbitt potentially takes a step back. We might not see some of those seam routes from him over the middle if he's going to be held into block. I think Morales is still there, so they could hold him in to block. Nesbitt is one of your best pass catchers. Your outside wide receivers, expect hitches and goes. They don't really do a lot of more complex things, double moves, things like that. A lot of hitches, according to Akil's article. Your inside wide receivers. This I think is interesting. Your inside wide receivers are an extension of the running game. Jet sweeps, bubble screens, et cetera, et cetera. As a matter of fact, one of the complaints from Troy fans was third and long in running bubble screens. Now, you've got Nate McCollum there, who just transferred from Georgia Tech, and Kobe Paysor has been there the last couple of years. I think Nate McCollum profiles as more of a tweener running back wide receiver build, and if you're going to be throwing bubble screens, it could be Nate McCollum that's receiving them. So tight end running backs going to help in the passing game. So maybe not as much production from Bryson Nesbitt. Oh, the other thing that Akil's article says, the O-lines prefer run blocking as opposed to pass blocking. Could we see that? I don't really know what I can take away from all that I've looked into with Chip Lindsey. It could be that, Drake Maye is just good enough to elevate the offense regardless of what Chip Lindsey is doing with the offense. 1 year before he declares for the NFL draft. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you excited for Chip Lindsey? What are your feelings? Are you worried that he might hold Drake Maye back this year? Are you worried that Drake Maye could take a step back? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace.